Internet, my name is Ren. This is Ren Rants, a channel where I rant about many things that I care about with a particular focus on pop culture and politics. However, in this video, we are going to be talking about the time that I almost attended a Scientologist cult school. And I know that that sounds like a bullshit nonsense storytime video, but this is absolutely true. So when I was in 8th or 9th grade, I was living in a small town in eastern Washington, a town with about 1,000 people. It was an extremely conservative Christian town. My parents moved me there probably when I was about 4 or 5 from Canada, and I think I spent all of my school years in that town. And needless to say, with my hippie Canadian farmer dad and my German doctor liberal mom, I didn't have much to relate to with regards to my classmates or most of the people around me. We just had very different life experiences, very different values, very different goals, and I felt very, very isolated. So one of the options that we were looking at to deal with that was potentially sending me away to school somewhere else. We were actually really looking at boarding schools. Part of this was because my ridiculous 14-year-old brain had become enamored with the idea of boarding schools because of things like Harry Potter and the private novels, which are awful. I do not recommend them. They are garbage chick lit teen novels. They are so bad. But I read those obsessively, and so I thought private school would be a great way to solve a lot of my problems and send me away to somewhere where people were exciting and worldly, and it was just a nonsense fantasy. I'm very glad that we just kept me in public school in the end, because that was a much better decision, especially with everything else I'm going to tell you. But we were serious enough about this that I actually spent a night at a boarding school in British Columbia and did a tour. I did a campus tour of another school in British Columbia, and we were looking at schools all over the US and Canada, including the Delphian School in Yamhill County, Oregon. And I don't know what it is about Oregon and cults, because Antelope, Oregon, of course, was the site of the Rajneeshpuram cult, and I don't know, is it the weather? Is it the discount Washington vibes? What draws cults to Oregon? If you know, tell me in the comment section down below, because I'm very curious about this. So we were looking into the Delphian School, and my mom isn't all that tech savvy, and she was even less tech savvy back then. So I was the one doing most of the, preliminary Googling and informational research on these schools. And 14-year-old me didn't really know all that much about Scientology and didn't see any red flags when I was looking at this school. In fact, even now, if you go and look at their website, it doesn't say all that much about Scientology anywhere on really the main pages of the website. It looks like a completely legitimate school with happy children enjoying class outside, pictures of beautiful facilities, healthy food, things like that. It looked like basically every other boarding school website that I was looking at the time. There was nothing about it that really stood out to me as out of the ordinary. My mom and I began communicating with the school, submitting applications and information, trying to schedule a tour of the school. We were looking at plane tickets, and I even had a phone interview with the admissions committee or whatever for that school. And the phone interview is actually where we kind of put it all together. So during the phone interview, a lot of the things they asked about were, like favorite authors and favorite subjects in school, things like that. And I think at that time I was very much in my smarmy fedora atheist phase. So I think I made some kind of remark about enjoying secular authors or something like that. And the person on the other end of the line paused. And they seemed to be kind of bothered that I seemed to be giving off the vibe that I was an atheist. And so then I kind of wondered where they were going to go with this, because again, there was this long pause. And then she says, have you looked into our founder at all, L. Ron Hubbard? And I was like, no, I haven't actually. So she called my mom, and she asked my mom the same question and asked how much she knew about our founder. And as soon as my mom heard the name, it all came together. Because obviously I didn't really know that much about Scientology, but my mom knew a good amount about it and had heard about it enough to realize what was going on. And so then we did some more research, and we realized very quickly that this is the school that Tom Cruise sent his children to. This is the school that most prominent Scientologists send their children to. It teaches using L. Ron Hubbard's, patented form of education known as study tech. I don't know what that means, because we basically ran screaming frantically in the other direction. And this is basically why we decided not to send me to boarding school, this and the fact that it is basically as expensive as university, but you don't get any degree that you can actually get a job with, you just get a fancier high school diploma to get into university with. So we decided to save the money, and I went to art camp in the summer instead, and that was a much better life choice. I made wonderful lifelong friends. If you have the option to go to art camp or to go to a Scientologist boarding school, I definitely recommend art camp instead. So it was a very strange experience. I still kind of marvel about it to this day, because I am kind of amazed that this school exists and is allowed to exist. This facility exists solely to indoctrinate children into Scientology, and it is able to sell itself as a completely ordinary school to most people. That is how the website looks. That is the vibe you get when you're talking to the people. Everyone's very nice and very professional and very friendly, like you would expect the staff of any boarding school to be. It was truly amazing, and we got so much farther in the process than I am comfortable with, and I am so glad that I did not accidentally go to that school. On one hand, I kind of can't imagine how we would have gotten to the point where I would have been, enrolled and living there and going to school and attending classes without realizing that or ever coming across the founder's name. But, the fact that we got as far as we did before we realized what was going on is just mind-blowing to me. So be sure to carefully research whatever organization you send your children to. If it's a school, if it's a summer camp, anything, make sure you research it well, because you never know, you could accidentally have them indoctrinated by a cult, and nobody wants that. So if you have had any weird experiences with cults or anything related to cults in your life, let me know in the comment section down below. If you like my videos, subscribe. If you don't, I am sure you're going to tell me, because you always do. See you next time. Peter Sane.